And it's time to go back to live racing with Heat 3B of the Unlimiteds. And here are the storylines we're following. Maybe three of the best boats out here today. Dave Villwock cruising in the Elam. Will he cruise to a victory? How about Jeff Bernard? He got a little bit angry, not at himself, but at the officials a few moments ago. And Steve David, is he in position to win his second straight Chevrolet Cup at Seafair? That is Heat 3B.
Heat 3B of the Chevy Cup at Seafair is brought to you by Southwest Airlines, the official airline of Seafair, with 4 daily nonstop flights to Denver, and is presented for Seafair by Chevrolet and American Revolution.
And here we go. Here are your boats. The Elam Plus, the FormulaBoats.com, Oh Boy Alberto, Our Gang Racing, Albert Lee Lake Ridge Paving, and they're having trouble getting away from the dock. They may not make the race. MirageBoats.com, the Fred Leland boat with Greg Hopp at the controls. Taking a look out at the course. And again, a beautiful sunny day as the skies have cleared and the boats are ready to go racing. We will take a look at the men at the controls of these boats for the final heat race of the Unlimiteds. Here we go. Dave Villwock in the Elam Plus. Again, 2 first places, Mike, the boat to beat today.
Yeah, and he may get another first place in this one because he knows that the competition behind him is working on one another, not him really, and it'll be smart for him to just keep his nose clean here and not try to race him.
Jeff Bernard, who made a huge mistake in the last heat in the U5 Formula boats, jumping the gun, and Chip, he's got to make up for that.
He's got to make up for jumping the gun, and he's got to learn a lesson to accept responsibility when things don't go his way. Everybody's working on the same rules here. They have the same opportunity to screw up, and they didn't. So he's got to take responsibility for that.
Bill Rocky, what's the story there?
Well, twofold. He needs points first and foremost, and like you guys said, he has got to settle down and mentally get into this.
We'll see if he does. One guy who's mentally always into his races is Steve David in the Alberto boat, Michael.
He's got a couple of agendas in this one, too, as well. One, he has to give Dave Villwock a little bit to think about for that final heat because they're both going to be there. And number 2, he's got to figure out how to stay ahead of Jeff Bernard if he can and continue to gain some points. Remember, Villwock hasn't raced much this year so far, so he is not having to key on Villwock, that is, Steve David isn't, in order to get points. He would be foolish to try to race him.
I think Jeff Bernard has snookered him, and he's going to have the number 1 lane this heat.
Starting to look that way.
All right, Guard is, what's the Alberto camp talking about?
Oh, they're talking about a lot. They want a little bit of smoother ride, and they also want to be a little bit faster, so they changed out their propeller. So, Steve, we'll see what happens.
All right, here are the rest of the boats in Heat 3B. Kip Brown in the Our Gang Racing boat.
Jumped the gun in the first heat. This is his first time to be able to race with no holes barred. I hope he doesn't try to make it up by doing something too aggressive and getting himself in trouble. He's going to be one to watch.
Mike Lake Ridge Plumbing barely got away from the dock. Dave Williams and company.
Not going to be a factor here, but he'd just like to finish a heat.
And finally, Fred Leland's boat. Greg Hopp at the controls of the Mirage.com.
I would love to see him in the final for Fred, but I just don't see it happening. I don't see him really doing even all that well here.
Pat O'Day.
Well, Jack in the Box congratulates the fastest qualifier in this heat, David Villwock, formerly of Port Orchard, now of Auburn, in his Elam, 155.249 miles an hour. And oh, by the way, for the best in fast food anytime, stop at your nearest Jack in the Box today.
All right, Jeff Bernard out of the corner, just about 900 feet further up than he was the last time. Pretty much the same scenario. He's going to have to ratchet up. He's a little closer to the line this time than he was last time. And he sees the rest of them coming in the mirrors. Don't get too anxious. That's the issue. Looks like this time he didn't, but he doesn't have the boat speed. And Stephen David is going to lead him across along with the Elstrom and Dave Villwock as they come down into that first corner now. Let's see if everybody leaves some room. They do. Everything looks pretty good, but Jeff Bernard on the inside is going to try to stay in this one if he's got boat speed, and coming out looks like he does. And he's side by side now at this point with the Elam, but the Elam has the superior boat speed too. And the outside of him, you see, of course, the Oh Boy Alberto. They're jumping around a little bit out there, Chip. That was not a bad start this time for Mr. Bernard.
No, Jeff Bernard did a good job. He knows he has to have the inside because he's got to win here. here because you got to make up points. So he did what he had to do. And frankly, I'm surprised he got up to speed as quick as he did because he was very early.
He was indeed, but that power curve was pretty good for him. It's going to be the Elam leading as they come down to end lap number 1 here on the inside. In second place, it's Jeff Bernard in the Formula boats. And in third place, oh boy, Oberto.
And the speed on the first lap for the Elam at 144.721 miles an hour.
Through the corner now, Chip. Basically, the business for Vilwalk is just try to stay clean here and leave everybody enough room. Don't get any reason to call the ire of the officials.
I hope that Steve David's got more horsepower than he's showing right now. He's in third place there on the outside. Because right now, Dave Vilwalk and the Elstrom boat is kind of showing they are really, really dominant. And it could be that Steve David's holding back because he really doesn't need more than a third. Or it could mean that that Elstrom boat is just maybe even unbeatable.
It's probably a little bit of both, but we want to remember, too, the only one that Steve David really needs to race in this to gain anything at all is the fella he just passed into second place, and that's Jeff Bernard. Steve David in the Oh Boy Oberto, second place. Jeff Bernard in third place as they come across the line. Pat, how about
and now you just saw a lap of 151 miles an hour, almost qualifying time for the Elam.
Very, very quick.
Now, the reason it's important for Steve David to stay in front is national points. Jeff Bernard is the guy that's closest to him in getting that team national point championship, so he would definitely like to finish in front of Jeff.
Let's sneak back to third and fourth, where a dandy race has been going on way back in third and fourth. And of course, that's Kip Brown, and he is racing a Greg Hopp back there, and he just got around him to slip into fourth place, and that's got to be a heck of a racing experience for the rookie Kip Brown.
Now, of course, Kip jumped the gun in the first heat, but right now he's just trying to get experience. So coming from behind a Greg Hopp and passing him, that's a good experience to have.
Checkered flag for this fellow. He is Dave Vilwalk, of course, and he's having a great Seafair Chevrolet Cup right now. First place once again. Oh boy, Oberto comes across second place, picks up another spread of points against the third place boat. This one, the Formula One, and Jeff Bernard. The Formula boats, that is, Jeff Bernard. And here comes Kip Brown across the line in fourth place. That was probably one of his best races. He just barely edged out Greg Hopp in the MirageBoats.com.
And Dave Vilwalk, taking no prisoners, turned that second lap at over 150 miles an hour. Amazing.
I hope we're going to get a chance to talk to Nate Brown, the uncle of Kip, to kind of see how old Uncle Nate's feeling about the performance of his young nephew.
There you see the Elstrom boat, all by its lonesome out there, having just won this one in a walkaway. Dave Vilwalk, while he's been very focused today and always very amenable, chatting with us, saying earlier today, I'm going to do whatever I have to do. I'm going to push and shove and move people around, and I'm just going to run the kind of race I need to run. And as a driver who's been around a long time, Chip, and as we've talked about, the old guys versus the young guys, he's not ready to give up anything yet.
Oh, absolutely not. Remember, he would like to have the all-time win record, and he's got a boat under him that may be one of the most evolved, highest performance boats ever. This Elstrom family has done such a great job, and this team is so deep in talent. Now remember, this is a team sport, and I would say there's maybe 3 or maybe 4 guys on that team that could actually be crew chiefs on any other team.
Where might this team be, Michael, if they'd have gone ahead and raced back east?
Well, they very well could be way out in front in points right at the moment. Who knows? There were 3 races on the East Coast, and only 2 of them got completed. The Gold Cup didn't get finished, as you know. But the big problem was that Stephen David did not get the kind of points he thought he would get on the Eastern Circuit in the absence of the Elstrom boat. And because of that, he's still in a pretty tight points race with the FormulaBoats.com.
But Jeff Bernard's done some damage to his hopes on that championship today, and Steve David's gained some ground.
Yeah, he kept racing hard in that heat, did Steve David, and got second place points just now in front of Jeff Bernard. At least unofficially, that's the case.
Well, it's kind of hard to figure what Bernard was doing. He's got a lot of boat speed, but he was only running about 130, 31 miles an hour a lap. Yeah, he slowed down considerably.
Well, essentially, he was picking up some points when he realized he was going to go pick up any placement. He was picking up his points there to make sure he had a little insurance to get into that final. In that case, he'll let it all hang out.
So that's the bottom line. These guys are in the final, and you throw Jean Thioret in there, and we've just seen our 4 top boats that will be in this final heat coming up a little bit later, the Chevrolet Cup here at Seafair.
I tell you, that's a very, very dominant boat. That's a very, very experienced driver. And I tell you what, if you're Steve David, you got your work cut out for you in the final to beat that combo.
Well, and especially the way Dave Villwock likes to dive down and get that inside lane and fight from inside. He's tough to beat in there.
He does, but he's made mistakes trying to get that inside, and sometimes I thought it would be better for him because he's got such a great boat to just stay out there in lane 2 or 3, let the